going to talk about a new documentary that took about more than 7 years to finish. And this is really the story behind those three Holocaust survival that never had a chance to tell their story. Those are the lost survival that left Belgium 70 years ago or so, 1940. A film documentary by Laura Selzer. Nobody Wants Us is their story.
So everybody was in great despair there on that ship.
We had good luck. We met the right people. This was the thing.
You work for almost 10 years on this documentary, and eventually you finish it. Congratulations! A lot of sweat, a lot of begging, a lot of work, and eventually it's done. Is out there.
The film is about some of the last Holocaust survivors who were able to escape war-torn Europe and be allowed into the United States. But it was difficult for them. It was, it's told through the eyes of three teenagers, Simone, Annette, and Malvina, and Irving. Annette was only 3 years old. But so you do get a perspective through, their struggles to dodge the bombs in Belgium. They were Belgian Jews. They dodged the bombs. They took this route to get to France, to Portugal, to finally get to Portugal. And they were stuck. They were not able to get out. But this wonderful man, Aristide de Souza Mendes, he allowed them out by issuing them life-saving visas to get onto a ship to come to the U.S., to be denied in the U.S., and then due to quotas, denied in Mexico due to quotas, and then they were refueling in my hometown port, which is Hampton Roads, Virginia, in Norfolk, Virginia. And what happened was activists and some lawyers who were my relatives got involved. And they said, you need to save these people. Even Eleanor Roosevelt got involved. And the State Department wanted no more refugees to come into the U.S. at the time. And thankfully, they were allowed into the U.S. in the literally 11th hour. So it's a very
11th hour.
Yeah, 11th hour. It was.
What does that mean?
They were going to go back the next day.
Really?
To Belgium, yeah. I mean, so when they were in Hampton Roads, Virginia, that Assistant Secretary of State Breckinridge Long sent someone down to assess the situation. And he said, as just delay. Do not let these people off. Maybe let 5 people off. There were almost 90 people on that ship. And so when this man saw what was happening, his name is Patrick Murphy Malin, who really was a hero in our film. He was able to reach out to some people, local people, and say, we're going to allow these people off the ship and you're going to have to take them in. It was the local Jewish community, because he knew that they would take them in, and they were also standing up for helping them. Mm-hmm. So they were bringing them meals because they were trapped. They were trapped on that ship while they were at port before they were going to go get sent back to possibly good chance death eventually because of the Holocaust. Mm-hmm. It was the early phase of the Holocaust, but they weren't at that point this was September 1940. Interestingly, it was the week of September 11th, 1940, which is just an ironic date. Yeah. And the National Council of Jewish Women, where they started like a phone tree. Remember the old days of phone trees, where many of them, they all came down literally at 11 o'clock at night to the docks, to the pier in Norfolk, Virginia. They brought their cars, they filled their cars with the refugee families, they housed them for a couple nights, and then they ultimately ended up going to New York, which was their goal. Many of them had family members in New York already.
Doing and the hard work that you're doing for all these years is not just to tell the story of those three survival all, but also you want to connect it to what is going on right now with the refugee issue, and we saw the 4 years of Trump and what we have about the wall and Muslim ban. Nobody wants us. Is still today. There are some people nobody wants them. So make the connection.
Absolutely. No, it's such a great question. So we started working on the film in 2012. Luckily, I was able to interview some of the few remaining survivors, and then it just sat in the can because we really, as you know, well, you wait for funding and it takes time. It takes time to raise the money so that you can produce and edit and film and distribute. Then we had the Muslim ban.
You need a muscle man. You need one.
It sparked a fire in my belly, in my heart. Broke my heart when we were banning Muslims because of very similar. It was whether it was Islamophobia or back then it was during the war, it was anti-Semitism. And then at this time it was Islamophobia. Mm-hmm. So I thought that my film was going to be a direct parallel between some Syrian refugees who were coming to my hometown. They were exactly in the same boat, no pun intended, but they were in the same boat as these refugees in 1940 who came on that ship. They were some of the last Muslims allowed into the U.S. until we closed the doors officially, due to the Muslim ban. Mm-hmm. So I was following them for a good year, a couple families. And it was interesting how I got so close to them. I felt so privileged. And just so lucky to have these new friends in my life. And one of them is still like a sister to me, Nihad. Uh-huh. And their escape, dodging the bombs, losing everything, leaving everything behind, losing family members, was the post-traumatic stress of what they went through and what they have left behind and the people that are still behind in Syria or Lebanon, various areas, Greece. It was hard for them to tell their story on camera yet.
I see that. It is very hard to relive it again, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so how do you get them to speak and talk to you and trust you and tell them the very intimate, horrible experience?
I know.
That's your role as a filmmaker, I suppose.
Yeah, and I will tell you that they talk to me at length in their homes. And as you can imagine, as you know firsthand, a Muslim family is always so warm and welcoming. And, there's always a meal. There's always a great meal involved.
Yeah, food open up a lot of things.
Oh, the best. I've learned some of the best Syrian recipes. And, but.
Well, how about we're sharing that, your website and the film here, and so people can actually get more information, after this interview. Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. I'm happy to. It's nobodywantsus.com, and I can tell you more about this whole Pay It Forward campaign to get the film into schools. What we're working on now, But I do want to address the fact that it was easy for me to interview these Holocaust refugees because this was 70 years ago, right? 70 years ago. If I had tried to interview them a year later, a month later after they came in, they'd be like, no way am I going to talk about this trauma. It's very difficult. And I really had to respect the fact that the Syrian refugees, Yeah, they
Yeah.
just need time. They need time. And I would just be so honored to tell their story as well. And now I am working on a new film. I'm very fascinated by the plight of the migrant. And now I'm working on a film about migrants who are coming from South America to the US.
Well, as a filmmaker and as a Jewish person with memory and relation, and how do you navigate this and tell the story and kind of keep the emotion checked?
Hard to, it definitely is a challenge. I think, I just got back from the Guatemala and Mexico border, and I was following some refugees and learning about or filming. It's called La Bestia, and that's the train that goes from south to north to come to America, and people have to jump the trains. And these are people. Let me just say, like, the stories were just heartbreaking. These are not people who are just coming to make more money, to have a better, of course they want a better life for their children, of course. But these are people who are leaving due to horrific situations. They don't want their children to, sadly, be raped or killed, or, do you have to deal with drug lords? There's some really tough things that people are escaping right now, and refugees are often escaping. And I think that it's important for us to just kind of put ourselves in their shoes, whether it's the Syrians or the people from South America, or to learn from our history with Jews escaping the Holocaust and how we respond.
It's amazing that with those tragic events in our history, it seems like we're not learning anything, and they still happen again. And we needed a filmmaker like you to come and invest their energy, emotion, and time to retell the story and to remind us that humans are capable still of doing evil things.
And we were recently nominated for an Emmy for under the historical film category, which I'm really honored to have gotten that, because I worked really, really, really hard with Holocaust experts and educators to tell the story accurately. It was a challenge. But yeah, we won second place.
Oh, yeah, it already. Oh, I see. Sorry about that. I know
Oh, we
there
were
was.
nominated.
No, I know nominated, and we talked about we have to wait on Saturday to. I missed that. So you get, that's not something
I'm honored.
you
Well,
shake your second is. It's
yeah.
great,
Now I
and
can say Emmy nominated film,
yeah,
right?
the fact you are there, your name there, it's a huge thing, and is this you've done other documentary?
Yeah, so I've worked on countless documentaries for PBS, the Discovery Channel, the History Channel, and I also produce a lot of educational programming, like hundreds of educational programs over the years. I've been working almost 20 years. I hate to admit that. That reveals my age. But in the Washington, D.C. area, this film came to me from a cousin of mine who I didn't know. He's in San Francisco, and he's 10 years older than me. And he told me about this film. And the film is about heroes in my hometown. And it turns out that the two of the heroes, the husband and wife law team in 1940, are my great uncle and great aunt.
Whoa,
So
this is about you then.
it is about my family, yeah. And here's the other thing that it's about that I really love is it's about average, local, everyday people who choose to be upstanders. That's like this new word, the words we're using these days in Holocaust education. Choose to be an upstander, doing the right thing, not being a bystander, and obviously not being a perpetrator, right? The perpetrators are always the bad guys.
Yeah, we're not gonna.
And that's something else you said earlier, which I wanted to talk a little bit about, is there's always going to be a perpetrator, right? There's always going to be a bad leader. That's just human nature. We were talking about that the other day.
We'll have the potential of doing evil things.
Yep, we all have choices, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so many people do choose to, instill fear in a community or what, and they will choose to do the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
But my takeaway also is it's as bad to be a bystander and not do anything as it is to be a perpetrator.
Yeah.
And that it's all of our responsibilities to be upstanders.
The perpetrator is obvious. We can fight them, we can isolate them, but those bystanders are this is where the damage happened because we don't see them. We don't, it's very hard to identify them and motivate them. So that you're right. The bystander are the one who really could cause that much damage. And the Republican Party and right-wing fanatic criticism of the critical race theory and they were against studying certain history in school, not telling the story of racism in this country and how it's still after slavery was abolished, we still have systemic racism. They don't want to talk about that. Why are we afraid of history? So this is your role as a filmmaker.
Yeah, right. And then I put myself, let's just do this. Let's do this little exercise together. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of, we could do, of the people who could choose to be bystanders. Like how scary it must have been for the Germans and who were being told, if you help these Jews,
yeah,
what's going to happen to you and your family? Sousa Mendes, Aristide de Sousa Mendes, he was told, he was an ambassador, and he worked for the Portuguese consulate in France, and he was told, do not issue any more visas. Meanwhile, after he was told not to issue any more visas, he issued upwards of 30,000 visas. And of those 30,000, about 10,000, they guess, were for Jews. So it wasn't just for Jews. It was for people escaping the horrors of World War II. So, and I will say that at the end of, he ended up dying a pauper. He did not have anything at the end, but he had his conscience. And there was a quote. Let me see. I wrote down a quote over here. He said, starting today, I will obey my conscience. As a Christian, I do not have the right to let these men and women die. And so, he made a choice and he suffered because of his choice, but he really didn't, right? There was
work on this film for 7 years and put it all together, and now it's out there and he saw it. Sometimes you feel, did I tell the full story? What am I missing? What your own reaction to when you first saw the whole project together, as somebody who actually lived through it?
Gosh, it's such a great question. When I was writing it, or after I had conducted all of the interviews with these survivors, these refugees, I had so much content. I didn't even know what to do with all of it. It was hard to figure out the focus. And then when it was coming together, I was thinking, nobody's interested in this. Nobody's interested in this. Nobody. Then I brought in these child actors, and I hired an amazing watercolor illustrator who created these original illustrations for the film. And then at the end of the film, I have kids reacting to the film. And then I realized, this is something really meaningful. But so I just want to say, if anybody's listening to this and is thinking about writing a book, writing a story, telling a story, making a film, don't give up on it. Just keep on. If it's something, if it's something that you're passionate about, keep on working on it. And if you get stuck, do not be afraid to ask for help. So I at the 11th hour of my editing, I brought on a writer to actually help me look at the story and construct it in a way that PBS and people all around the country would really be able to relate to it, especially teenagers. I was hoping to relate to it. So there's my takeaway is, if it's meant to be told, like, you have a beautiful story.
Story. So who is, sometimes you have a perfect audience. Define that perfect audience that you could be targeted by that film, by that documentary.
Absolutely. We've got two audiences. And one, like my dream audience, is the school systems, right? The teachers are real teachers who are teaching US history, world history, World War II history, social studies. A lot of the teachers were loving the film because we're giving them supplemental materials. We've created 14 modules, educational modules, to accompany the film, which was also really a lot of work and really gratifying to do, which I can share with you as well, as well as opportunities to volunteer today. I think if you just go to nobodywantsus.com/volunteering,
I'm already there.
learn about volunteer opportunities today.
Wonderful. You said there is two audiences. Did I miss one?
No, not
You
no.
said-
The second audience has been the Holocaust survivors and their children. And they really love this film because they feel like they can connect. They were there. They understand. We're giving them a voice, even though they're not in the film, but their voice is in the film as children survivors.
It's amazing how art reshape our reality and how we tell history through art. And it's still, I know it's a documentary, but it's still a story. It's still a narrative. In a way that is fictionalized part of it, because you have to make choices and you tell a story. It's interesting you say that your ideal audience is school system and teacher. How that fits in this hyper reaction to critical race, teaching critical race theory in school, or teaching racism and slavery in school, and a lot of legislation, a lot of school now they are limiting what you can teach in school. Have you faced any of that when you went to a school to show your film?
Well, two answers to that. One is that I think 12 states now are have mandatory Holocaust education. So I'm focusing a lot on those 12 states, and they're using it as supplementary materials because teachers need content, and we've created all this content.
Yeah.
Second is, at the end of the film, it's really it's just like, it's a moment in the film where you're kind of taken aback, where 13-year-old, 12 or 13-year-old Malvina, she gets off the ship and she's in Virginia, which is in my hometown, and she sees, she doesn't speak English, but she sees a bathroom and she needs to go. And so there's colored bathrooms and there's white bathrooms. And this is a little girl who, at the beginning of the film, her head was knocked against the wall by the non-Jewish kids. The teachers were examining her scalp as a little Jewish girl for lice. And the teacher's saying, "You're clean and you're very well groomed for a Jewish child."
We hear that.
Child. Yeah. And so she now comes and she's told by some strange lady, who's taking her in, "You can't go to that bathroom." And she was like when she recalls this later in life, she was telling how she's like, "I just left this and now I'm considered colored." Like, she didn't understand that she just left something and now she's coming to the same a same kind of horror in the US. Of course, it didn't involve her because her skin color was white.
Interesting.
Right?
I mean, it is about power.
Yeah. So,
Laura, this is really a wonderful to finally to got a chance to talk to you and talk about your documentary. You've been working on it for a long time. We talked before, and I know you how hard you work on this, and eventually you got it through. Congratulations! You've been nominated for Emmy, and then you got the second, which is great. And are you gonna come here to Minnesota to show your film? The
I would
film is,
be
yeah, that would be a good audience for you.
I would be so honored. I would be so honored. Maybe we could do, now that things are opened up again, maybe we could do a big in-person screening.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, we were doing in-person screenings and they were like sold out shows. And really, I think the key, it's only a 43-minute film. So the key is to have a really interesting panel discussion with an audience afterwards.
And
then
people can buy the
airing next on your PBS station.
wonderful Laura Schultz. I mean, the last name, can you run it to me? I have issue with names.
Yeah, sure. So it's Laura Seltzer Dunai.
A filmmaker, a documentary. You know, I think you put an emphasis on educational. You teach. You have streaming events and you are on a crusade, if I may use that term, to get people to ask different questions and question some of this well accepted nonsense that that's been running around, especially these days.
And for people to stand up for what they believe in when they see injustice served, whether it's a refugee crisis, whether it's the Palestinian situation. You know, I fully believe that we need to be supportive. When we see wrongdoings, we need to stand up and we need to speak up. And we need to lend a hand when we can. Having me.
Enjoy the rest of the day, and I think we'll have you here, and this conversation is not going to end anytime soon. So we still have to keep this conversation going, and good luck with your next project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. And that.